The soldiers came home just hours before President Bush acknowledged he's not satisfied with the war in Iraq, and he said he knows many Americans feel the same way. But does this mean there's a change in policy or not? Grant Rampy is live at the White House for us. Grant.
Evening, Kaidi. 13 days till the midterms, and President Bush has seen the polls. He knows that when voters make their decision, the war in Iraq is going to be one of the big issues on their minds.
Question about it.
On the one hand, the president insists.
Absolutely, we're winning.
But at the same time, he's also willing to admit.
I know many Americans are not satisfied with the situation in Iraq. I'm not satisfied either.
That may be why the administration's suddenly embracing an idea that Bush critics say they've been pushing for a long time. The thinking now at the White House is that the Iraqi government needs to be meeting specific goals that can be plotted on a timeline.
The benchmarks will make it more likely we win. Withdrawing on an artificial timetable means we lose.
Word coming out of Iraq on Tuesday was that leaders there were on board. They'd be willing to take over their own security in 12 to 18 months. Well, now Iraq's prime minister says all this talk of benchmarks is being driven by the upcoming elections. No one has the right to impose a timetable on his government, to which the president responds.
We'll respect the fact that the Iraq government is sovereign, and they must respect the fact that, we've got patience, but not unlimited patience.
Clearly, experts say, this close to the upcoming midterm elections, the president is reaching out to his base, saying he takes responsibility for how the war's going.
People are unhappy about it, look right to the president.
He's hoping it's not too late to avoid defeat in November or in Iraq.
The only way we lose in Iraq is if we leave before the job is done.
And as the president works to change the course of the conflict and the midterms, he says Democrats are showing overconfidence up on Capitol Hill. They're starting to measure the drapes for their new offices. But he suggests the American people will ultimately decide who controls Congress, and they haven't voted yet. Live at the White House, Grant Rampy for the CW11 News at 10. Jim and Kaidi.
All right, well, we don't have long to find out, do we, Grant? Thank you very much.
11 days until the all-important midterm elections, the candidates are making their final pushes, and so is the president. He's hoping to keep Congress out of Democrats' control.
The president is also trying to sway voters' opinions about the war in Iraq. And he sat down today with our Grant Rampy for an exclusive White House interview. Now, Grant, what's on the president's mind?
Asha, Matt, there are a lot of issues, of course, we could have talked about stem cell research, North Korea, Iran, but we chose to focus in our limited time on Iraq and the upcoming midterms. We started out discussing the possibility, as pundits say, that Democrats could soon take control of the House, possibly even the Senate.
I don't think they're going to win. I understand here in Washington, a lot of people have already made up their minds about how the elections are going to come out. I see something different out there when I campaign.
Can you imagine Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi? Are you prepared possibly to have to work with her?
It's not going to happen. See, that's one of those trick questions that you professionals try to get me to answer, because I believe we will hold the House.
To be blunt, it would seem that voters, the polls would demonstrate, they're angry at you in very many respects surrounding the war in Iraq. But you're not on the ballot. Voters may be prepared to vote out their Republican representative because they can't get to you.
Yeah, I think that's what the Democrats hope. But you can't, you're not a political party with solutions if all you do is focus on me. And see, one reason they do focus on me is because they don't have solutions on Iraq. And if you don't have a solution on Iraq, you just kind of deflect the issue and say, well, it's George Bush's fault. See, this is a different kind of war, and it's important for your listeners to understand. If we were to leave Iraq before the job is done, the enemy will follow us.
The enemy in Iraq will get on a plane and come over here.
The enemy in Iraq will have safe haven from which to plan further attacks, like they did in Afghanistan.
You came into office promising to be a uniter, and this has been a bitter campaign. The tone out there is pretty rank. Where did you go wrong?
Well, listen, I've been surprised at Washington. This isn't the first time this panel has been divided. I will tell you this, I have done, my best not to call out people. I've done my best to change the tone, but Washington is a bitter, divided place, and it's been one of the most disappointing features of my time here. My only pledge is for my final 2 years, I will try to do my best. The other thing, to unite, but I will tell you, war's tough. A lot of people didn't agree with my decision. I understand that. And all I can do is to continue to try to explain my positions as best I can.
Back to those midterms, the president warns, watch out if Democrats take control on Capitol Hill. Your taxes are going up. Democrats led by Nancy Pelosi shoot right back that the first chance they get, they're going to raise the minimum wage, address health care, and enact all the 9/11 Commission reforms. Live at the White House, Grant Rampy, News 2.
bitter and divided. Okay, thanks so much, Grant, for that report. Good interview.
Mr. President, midterms 11 days away. You've said Republican candidates are going to do well, but there's every chance that change of power in the House could occur, maybe even the Senate. Would that be so bad?
Yes, it would be. I think this country's better off with Republican leadership in the House and the Senate because the leadership understands two things that I believe are essential to the well-being of America. One, we're in a war, and that we must give our professionals all the tools necessary to win this war. There was a recent vote, for example, on whether or not we ought to be listening to phone calls coming outside the country into from Al-Qaeda or affiliates, and you know, the vast majority of Democrats, over 80%, voted against giving our professionals those tools. That's part of my case I make to the people. And the other thing is whether or not taxes ought to stay low. Low taxes will keep the economy growing, and the Democrat leadership is committed to letting the tax cuts expire, which would be a tax raise to the American people. So there are fundamental differences. I don't think they're going to win. I understand here in Washington, a lot of people have already made up their minds about how the election is going to come out. I see something different out there when I campaign. I see enthusiasm. I see you know, a good organization, and I see candidates who are talking about issues that are going to matter to their voters, like security of the country and low taxes.
You said Republicans understand we're at war. Do you believe Democrats don't understand we're at war?
Oh, I think a lot of Democrats do. I just don't think they want to, you know, prosecute the war the way we do. I think they just have a different attitude. The minority leader in the House said that Iraq's not a part of the war on terror. As a matter of fact, quite a few people feel that way. I disagree. And so does Osama bin Laden, who says Iraq is an integral part of the war on terror. So there's just a difference of opinion. I would never question anybody's patriotism. Please don't get me wrong on that. But I do think that you know, the view that somehow we can respond after we're attacked just doesn't make any sense. We got to respond before we're attacked. And we have to defeat the enemy overseas so we don't face them here. I mean, it's just a fundamental difference of opinion.
Well, you brought her up, Speaker of the House. Can you imagine Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi? Are you prepared possibly to have to work with her?
It's not going to happen. See, that's one of those trick questions that you professionals try to get me to answer, because I believe we will hold the House, and I'm going to work as hard as I can to make sure we will. I feel good about it. Again, I understand there's a kind of a, you know, as I said the other day, somewhat irreverently, that people seem to be dancing.
Measuring the drapes?
Measuring the drapes, dancing in the end zone while they're on the 15-yard line. And there's a lot of that going on in Washington. But these races are local races. And our candidates are enthused. Their bases, their support, the base is excited to help them. And you can't measure what's going to happen in the House or the Senate based upon some national survey or some national pundit.
To be blunt, it would seem that voters, the polls would demonstrate they're angry at you in very many respects surrounding the war in Iraq, but you're not on the ballot.
That's true.
So it would appear that in some races, voters may be prepared to vote out their Republican representative because they can't get to you.
I think that's what the Democrats hope. But you can't, you're not a political party with solutions if all you do is focus on me. And see, one reason they do focus on me is because they don't have solutions on Iraq. And if you don't have a solution on Iraq, you just kind of deflect the issue and say, well, it's George Bush's fault. And that's how they're running their campaigns. Our candidates, on the other hand, are saying, vote for me, here's what I'm going to do.
By the way, is Baghdad safer than it was 6 months ago?
Baghdad's troubled right now. But Baghdad is going to be safe because we're going to help this government defeat these extremists who want to stop who want to stop the advance of democracy. Look, 6 months ago, as I said in a press conference the other day, I felt like we were going to have fewer troops in Iraq. And then the sectarian violence started in Baghdad itself. Matter of fact, most of the violence that you see in Iraq on your TV screens is coming out of Baghdad and 4 other provinces. And our commanders on the ground said, let's adjust, Mr. President. We can't be moving. Matter of fact, we need to move some troops in there to help this young government survive. It's in our interest, by the way, they survive. Defeat in Iraq would be very dangerous for the future generation of Americans. See, this is a different kind of war, and it's important for your listeners to understand. If we were to leave Iraq before the job is done, the enemy will follow us.
The enemy in Iraq will get on a plane and come over here?
The enemy in Iraq will have safe haven from which to plan further attacks like they did in Afghanistan. The lesson of September the 11th is we're not immune from a foreign attack. We thought we were, but we're not. And this is where the difference of opinion exists here in Washington. A lot of people don't believe we're at war. They understand we got attacked, but they view this as more law enforcement. I view it that we're in a global conflict against ideologues who will kill Americans to achieve their objective. And my job is to do everything in our power to stop them from doing this again.
Yes, sir. You came into office promising to be a uniter, and this has been a bitter campaign. By the way, have you seen the Michael J.
Nor have I seen the ads on me, but...
Well, the bitterness that's out there, you promised to be a uniter, and the tone out there is pretty rank.
That's tough.
How would you say, where did you go wrong?
Well, listen, I've been surprised at Washington. This isn't the first time this panel's been divided. This isn't the first